Hi, everybody. We are doing R&D. We're doing I Can't Talk. We're doing Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You have questions. We have guesses. I am Nash.
That's more accurate than saying we have answers.
Yeah. You have questions. We have guesses. We can kind of help. Maybe. Hopefully we help. I'm Nash. I do RDA, and I have well over a decade's worth of tech experience. With me here, as always, my producer, Mike Gearman. Same boat, much tech experience. If you have questions you'd like us to potentially answer for you, send those to requests at radiodeadair.com. Put tech Q&A in the subject line. I've actually thought about considering making a whole separate email for it just to make things easier on people, but we'll see. Meanwhile, we have some questions to look over tonight and a little bit of news, because there was some tech news this week. Not a whole ton, but there was some. And I guess the first big news for the week, you know what the broadband industry really needs, Mike?
Competition?
No! Competition? Competition? Come on. What are you, communist?
Regulation, a good slap upside the head.
Well, yeah, those two. Well, the FCC this week decided that they're letting Time Warner Cable merge with Charter.
And they're probably going to keep Charter's name because everyone hates Time Warner.
Yeah, which is funny because Charter is the smaller of the two companies.
Yes, but that means it has less hate built onto the name. I'm already starting to see ads in my area, by the way, for Frontier, which is one of their competitors that is, okay, we'll give some space out here to Frontier. Frontier's going, we have Fios in your area. And I put in my address and I'm like, bullshit, no, you don't.
Yes, it's always a lie. They say, we have this in your area. And you actually put in your zip code. You're like, oh, we don't have this in your area.
So I don't get the commercials I see on some of my stations. I get local stations, local-ish stations, advertising for pizza places that aren't within 100 miles of here. Why are you running a CC's Pizza ad? We don't have those here.
Well, the Federal Communication did give its blessing, but there are some stipulations on it, which I kind of like. And if we actually had a system where cable companies competed, these would help. The stipulations are no download caps.
Right.
So they're not allowed to put download caps on anyone using Charter or any of their cable services, and
no speed throttling, right?
Yeah, and a moratorium on the interconnect deals. Now, if you'll recall back a few years when Netflix had that big dust up with Comcast and some of the others about the charging to connect to Comcast's network, Comcast was trying to get paid twice. Comcast wanted to be paid by you, the home user, to watch Netflix traffic. And they wanted to be paid by Netflix to send that traffic to you, who had already paid Comcast to send you that fucking traffic. Well, the FCC says Time Warner Cable can't do that at least for 7 years.
Which is forever in internet time, but not now. We should note here, Nash, this actually hasn't been fully approved. The last commissioner hasn't signed off on the deal yet. There's one commissioner who hasn't signed.
Ajit Pai. Fuck him.
No. You know, Ajit Pai has voted against it. There's 5 commissioners, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans. 2 of the Democrats have signed off on it. One with sort of provisos. He's like, I'm not sure. I'd like a little bit more discussion on this. One of the Republicans, or maybe both of the Republicans, I think, Ajit Pai especially, have voted against it. Pai has voted against it not because he doesn't want the deal to go through, but because he thinks the restrictions shouldn't be there.
Ajit Pai, if you guys don't follow the FCC, Ajit Pai will vote for against anything that even looks like regulation.
If it looks like it will help people, he's against it. If it looks like it's for corporations, he's for it.
Which is hilarious because he is a member of a regulatory body who does not want to regulate anything.
Well, I suspect when his term there is up, he will wait the statutory or whatever minimum amount of time to be off that board,
and then go work for Comcast.
and then go work for Comcast, Time Warner, whoever. He'll go. He will have a multi-million-dollar job waiting for him.
Yeah.
Whereas Wheeler, who came from the industry, and Democrats were thinking, "Oh, this guy's going to be bad. He's not going to regulate."
I thought so
He's
too.
been hardcore on
Oh yeah,
regulating.
it's been great. It's been beautiful.
He was a surprise. Part of me thinks he saw all the people saying he wouldn't do this stuff. He's like, "Screw them! I'll show them I will." So now, one Democrat left to sign off on it. He may have some additional provisos he wants to put in there. Time Warner Comcast has been like, "Those are the restrictions you want? Okay, we're fine." Because that's the undercutting pies thing. Is Time Warner and Comcast are like,
It's a
we're
charter.
fine with these restrictions. Sorry,
Time Warner Charter, yeah.
sorry, it's charter. We're fine with these because they're not nearly as harsh as the advocacy groups wanted.
Yeah, and it's that is part of the. I wish they had been a little harder on them because this is not a small deal. With
No.
this combination, you're effectively handing over control of. I think they're the second biggest or the big.
They'll become one of the biggest. Yes, second major cable deal. Actually, the fifth one might have signed off based on the Guardian or Register article you sent me. Because it says approved, and I'm not. The Ars Technica article I read yesterday said it hadn't been approved yet, but hey, that's 24 hours.
The problem here is that you have Comcast, and now you're going to have Warner, or whatever they're going to call themselves, Charter. You're going to have these two companies controlling the majority of broadband internet in the United States, and neither competes with the other. They do not. They stay out of each
Minimal
other's
overlap, yeah.
minimal overlap. They do not.
I think they get little slivers here and there.
They stay out of each other's neighborhoods, so there's no competition between the two. So there's no competition.
Well, Google, as they expand out slowly, will be competition and drive the prices down.
Eventually, maybe, but that's been in the process of a decade already, and that's not really helping anybody quite just yet.
Yeah, I'm still trying to convince Google to roll out to the county I live in. I send them a begging email about every month.
Now, I will say, in response to this, Comcast seems to have put its finger to the wind and made a concession. If you, before now, most places were under, or starting to be under, a 300 gigabyte a month cap. And if you went over it, you had to pay more. Well, Comcast, in all its magnanimous glory, said, okay, we'll give you a terabyte a month.
Which is actually pretty huge.
For now.
Oh, yes.
But
Netflix will go to 4K video online eventually, and that won't be that much anymore.
Yeah, but it's still a matter of,
Brady doesn't think a terabyte is much either.
No, he doesn't. Because it's still, a cap is a cap is a cap. Yeah, exactly. It's
and that's why I think that Charter and Time Warner were so willing. Give up cap for 7 years. 99% of the people we have don't hit it anyway, so sure, we'll accept that restriction.
I honestly, there's no, the fact that Comcast so easily went to 1 terabyte shows that the entire scheme was just another way to tack on a revenue stream to their internet service. And
yeah.
Now you may be wondering, why possibly would someone in such a position like Comcast be trying to tack on additional revenue streams? Well,
because they got to pay for golden parachutes for their executives, of course.
Yeah, but they're also keeping an eye toward the future. News came down this week.
I was going to say, there's new executives, there's new government officials to bribe.
Well, there's new competition coming they can't really do shit about. YouTube is planning to do TV. They're calling it YouTube Unplugged. And it's still rumor at this point. It's coming in 2017. Google's working on a low-cost subscription service that would include 4 major broadcast networks, as well as some cable channels. Now, the trick right now is trying to get them all to sign together, but what it's going to be is TV on the internet coming from Google for just, I think the word is under $35 a month. We'll give you cable channels and local channels and everything on the internet. Now, this comes on the wake of the news that Hulu will be picking up several television channels as well, like Fox and a couple others that they're going to be offering for broadcast. Amazon already makes available Showtime, HBO Go, and Stars. HBO has their own. Showtime has their own. CBS is going to have their own streaming service. Everything is going up to TV on the internet. That's where everything is heading. And I actually called that YouTube was in talks to do this. I knew this was coming.
Well, they're an obvious route for this because everyone already knows who they are.
Now, what this represents is the biggest challenge to cable television providers since cable came into existence. It honestly means that people can decide on internet but not want a damn thing to do with cable television anymore, and they have a viable alternative to it that doesn't require them to sign to some 2-year agreement for a ton of fucking channels they don't want, like ESPN and the C-SPAN and all these other things. This is coming. The end of cable television as we know it is coming. What's going to happen is these competition options are going to keep popping up. Their prices are going to start becoming more and more competitive. They're going to compete with one another. They're going to be bundles. People online, like Amazon's already doing this with, like I said, Showtime, Stars, and HBO. They bundle these things together and offer them to you. You still pay more than just your Amazon Prime membership, but they're bundled together and easy to access. And as these things go forward, cable is going to suddenly need to compete. The first thing that's going to go away is going to be locking in people to multiple year contracts and trying to charge them overages that won't fly anymore once people have a viable alternative. The next thing that's going to get chipped away is the cable bundles where you were stuck with ESPN and all these news networks that you don't want. And what that means is these channels are going to get pared down. They're going to get slashed away. We're going to have less ESPN on TV. There may be multiple ESPN streams online, but on cable networks, it costs them money so those are going to get whittled away. It's going to be less broadcast channels. ABC Family? Pretty fair idea or what is it called? Flashback or Fast Times or whatever the fuck they rebrand.
Speaking of a channel I don't watch.
Exactly. I just know it as ABC Family. I'm always going to know it as ABC Family. These are going to get pared down and whittled down. And
well, I think they'll turn into more Netflix type things where they go, we've got a few special shows that are the reason the channel exists.
Well, yeah, that'll work. And that works online.
And maybe family type movies as well.
And that works online. But it doesn't work on TV. It's not going to work on TV. The flipping channels thing, it's not going to work anymore. And as this happens, probably by 2025, I feel safe saying by 2025, cable television itself will have been phased out. I think that's a pretty safe prediction.
Giving yourself a 10-year window, yeah, that's probably pretty safe.
I think that it may still live on in some form or another. You may definitely still have over-the-air broadcasts because I don't foresee those locally going away. But as they exist now, those are going those big bundles and whatnot. Two side effects on here. Number one, the networks are going to hate this. They're going to be dragged kicking and screaming into this because this directly undercuts the business model they've established for the entire life of television. You know, they control the horizontal, they control the vertical, they tell you when you're watching this, at what time, how you're watching this. Well, people are going to change that up a lot. Nielsen ratings are going to change a whole bunch. Now, instead of having a Nielsen cable box in your house, the people who send you the content are just going to monitor how you watch it on their own. They're going to aggregate.
That'll lead to possibility of skewing.
Yeah, they're going to aggregate their own numbers, their own viewership from now on, and Nielsen is going to fade because why?
Well, or Nielsen will put together the technology that they use and just license it to them.
That too.
Which is better than 93 different places rolling their own.
Yeah.
I mean that's what happens in every industry. Someone goes, I have a niche. You need this niche, but rather than roll your own, I will license you mine. It's cheaper and you get a lot more benefit out of it.
And
you don't have to maintain your own programmers and things.
And on the side of Charter and Comcast, what's going to happen is they're going to end up being what they fought being since the internet began, which is dumb pipes.
Well, no, I think they'll end up buying some channels.
You think?
Yeah, I really do. I think they'll end up buying, some content providers so that they can try to have exclusive stuff for their networks or stuff that they
But it's still
give
not
to themselves free and charge other people for. And that's what they'll all do. So it'll end up being a wash for them.
But it's not going to come out like it used to. The cable box, the button, the remote control. It's not going to be like it used to anymore. Grady, what are you doing? Fucking around back there.
He's chasing some fluke.
It's not going to be what
he's chasing something.
Yeah, he's attacking the shit out of something. It's not going to be what it was. It's God damn it, Grady, you're upstaging me. My fucking cat is fucking upstaging me back there.
That is one of his toys. It's not some formerly living thing.
No, I don't think he understands murder yet. He hasn't experienced that. But it'll still be transmitted over the internet.
Yes.
Like it'll be a streaming service. That's where everything's going. Cable channels as we know them are on their way out, and Comcast will still be a dumb pipe. Even if they struggle with trying to offer their own streaming service, that's still going to be one of those things that's going to be people are going to like, They just want
our bread and butter is this pipe. We're trying to get gravy over here with these other things.
Nobody wants gravy. Nobody wants gravy on their bread and butter. Nobody wants gravy on bread and butter. What the fuck is wrong with you? Maybe
You've never
a little
been to
jelly.
Scotland, have you?
No. And that does not sound like an appealing place to go, actually. No, also probably what's going to slowly phase out as they tried so hard. Oh, they all tried so hard is the voice over IP telephone networks that they keep trying to erect. Because most people I know have opted not to have a landline at all. They go straight to cellular. And people are saying, well, that's not as secure. Should there be like a hurricane or something? And I'm like, well, voice over IP in a hurricane isn't going to work either.
It's just, I mean, given that the phone companies, your Verizons and your AT&Ts are not maintaining their copper lines anyway.
Nope.
And putting in fiber everywhere that they can, if they can get away with even that little bit, and saying, here, you'll have a little battery system in your house that's good for 8 hours. If we had a hurricane in an area, I suspect the power's going to be out for more than 8 hours.
Man, you used to be able to, right now with old style landline copper wires, you can hack that and turn your make a little wire and a little bit of duct tape, and you can make a flashlight out of a phone cord. You can do that. It transmits enough voltage across those cable wires, across those copper wires.
Light up an LED at least.
Yep, you can make a flashlight out of it. It's a neat little trick. There's YouTube tutorials on how to do that. But with the voice over IP stuff that comes in via your modem, if you got a special modem from your cable company, it's got a battery in there. The reason is they don't transmit power to the phone like it did before. It's a different thing now. So voice over IP, I think that's probably going to become a bit of a niche. because cellular is ruling, at least with people personally. Maybe for businesses, they'll still be voice over IP, but for individuals, people, all I have is a cell phone. I don't have a landline. But it's an additional cost for me.
Yeah.
So to sum it all up, what you're seeing now are the building blocks of the changing landscape of cable. Cable is going to be way different very soon, and in fundamental ways. Now that streaming is becoming more viable, now that networks are realizing this, things are going to change massively. And keep your eye on it. It's going to be a different era.
Yeah.
Lastly, this week, we'll talk about this. This will actually lead into one of our questions tonight. It's been much ballyhooed and much talked about, and finally, Nvidia did it. They have released the next iteration of their graphics card, the GTX 1080, which is a hilarious naming scheme for it, considering the era of 1080 is going out and we're moving into the 4K era. But
I think it was just the next number in this.
yeah, but it's serendipitous and bad.
Well, it'll confuse people.
Yes, it will, because people have heard 1080 for years and they're like, what? The GTX 1080 is coming. Prepare yourselves. Are you prepared? It's faster. It
better be.
Yeah, it's faster than the Titan X or the Titan 10 or the Titan X, however they say it. That was the big graphics card, the super huge $1,000 graphics card that Nvidia put out. The 1080 is not only faster than that, it's also about $599. Now, that's great. It's faster than their fastest at 6/10 of or 3/5 of the price. Yay, but asterisk.
Asterisks.
While it is faster than the GTX 1080, and it's also obviously faster than the GTX 980 and the GTX 970, it is at a retail launch of $599 or 450 pounds. It's $50 more than when the GTX 980 was released. So it's actually more expensive than the previous generation card at release.
But not much.
It's still, though, you say, but not much. No. $50 is a lot. I know you're saying, well, you're already paying $500, but tacking on an additional $50 to the price, this is a clear statement from Nvidia, which is saying we own this market.
Well, it's true, they do.
It also says we're not afraid of AMD Polaris. AMD Polaris is going to be their next generation architecture to run graphics cards, which is expected within the next few months. Nvidia willingly hiking up the price on their graphics cards, and this is a price hike. Don't even though it's a new model, it's still a price hike. It's still more expensive than the previous model. I will grant them that there are performance gains, yes. However, this is going to be the next mainstay card. So why is instead of dropping the price on the older cards, they raise the price on the newer cards. That is Nvidia saying, we're not scared of the market. We're not scared. You'll pay. You'll pay because what are you going to do? Buy an AMD? What? That's your option? You're going to buy an AMD? Now, the graphics benchmarks have been trickling in, some from Nvidia, some from other less, official sources. And it does say the numbers for this card are good. It's actually considerably faster. 1080 is going to be able to put around 9 teraflops of data compared to the Titan X did 7, and the 1070 can do 6.5. So that's a hefty fucking card. Even the 1080 is almost as fast as the Titan X, off by half a teraflop.
I'm seeing here over 2 megahertz clock speed on air cooling.
Air cooling, yeah. With the new process, they've done a die shrink, a combination of a die shrink, which is 16 nanometer FinFET.
Yeah.
And not only is it a die shrink, it's also a new architecture. It's also a new design for the chip itself. That's a double whammy. That's normally, we were talking a little while back about the Intel TikTok.
Yeah, it's normally, shrink the die.
New architecture.
New architecture. Shrink the die for the new architecture. Next new architecture. Or, architecture, die shrink, architecture sort of deal.
Yeah, this is a combination of both, which means the graphics gains are impressive. Now, that's not to say that this isn't a bad card. This is a good card, and I'm looking at it myself going, I can't afford it right now, but I want it. But I think the price is the significant thing here, because this is really Nvidia telling the market, we're not scared of AMD, we're not scared of competition, because there is no competition. I recall when Intel started doing the exact same thing. It was after the release of Bulldozer. Intel priced their shit however they wanted. They were not scared of AMD in the slightest.
So I see you got the picture of the guy presenting it there, holding up the card.
Yeah.
Go back one previous picture on that slideshow.
All right, let me look here. It's a slideshow?
At the bottom of the thing. Excuse me, towards the bottom of the
What the shit is that? Yeah! Nvidia VR Funhouse. That doesn't look fun. What are those? What the hell?
I think he tried to do minions without doing minions.
They look like dildos. Dildos with hair. Hairdos. Dildos?
Donald Trump.
Dildos with hair, yes. But this is significant not just for, and they have some other software stuff coming up that are supposed to make VR easier.
Yeah, this is supposed to be. I want to say I saw something from Oculus saying that they, work very tightly with this next card.
Yeah, and that's going to be, in kind of a big thing, since everyone wants to strap the fucking goggles to their head and look like an imbecile. I'm sorry.
In the privacy of their own home, it's not like
I don't care.
Walking around with it.
I don't care. I don't care. You look ridiculous, and people want to put that on their head and then jerk off.
Probably.
That is the saddest thing. That is the saddest. That is no. But still, I think the big takeaway here is Polaris is not something that AMD is worried about. With the numbers off this card, with the
unless AMD comes out and goes, oh yeah, here's Polaris. By the way, it's 20% faster than, which it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
We know it's not going to happen.
No.
But if it somehow did, that would be the only thing that would cause NVIDIA to go, wait, what?
And it's not going to. There's no competition for NVIDIA. This is dangerous, especially in the tech industry. We need options.
Yep.
You can't just have one type of car manufacturer, one type of appliance manufacturer, one manufacturer for these, because what happens is if that company gets in trouble, we're all fucked.
Yeah. I'm surprised this thing is still supporting DVI.
Well, like we said last time, DVI and HDMI are, in a lot of ways, with the exception of some upgrades to HDMI, at their base bottom level, they're the same.
Yeah, by G. See, why a DVI output on this thing? Really?
I still use DVI. At least on my computer, I still use DVI.
I'm going to predict the next one won't have DVI anymore.
Probably not. Yeah, you're probably right. The next architecture is probably going to abandon DVI. They're probably going to be HDMI only at that point, because those monitors will be gone.
See, one of those is HDMI. One of those looks like DisplayPort. I'm not sure what the other two are.
Those are there are two HDMI, one DisplayPort. I think that's another HDMI.
Okay.
One might be HDMI 2 point whatever.
Okay, there you go.
For 4K graphics or what the fuck ever.
I'm sure I could look up the specs on this thing.
Although, if you're gonna, why have DisplayPort on there? Because DisplayPort's just about as useful as DVI at this point. Everybody does.
Probably contractual. We will support DisplayPort through X iterations of a card.
Well, now it's time for our question. And speaking of that, we actually have a question on this subject. It comes to us from Art. He said, after NVIDIA's announcement last night, I was looking at upgrading my SLI GTX 760s to a single card. Now, I want to pause here and explain what SLI is for the uninitiated. When you hear someone say they have SLI graphics cards or Crossfire graphics cards, what they mean is they have, instead of just one graphics card in their computer that they plug their monitor into, what they've done is they've taken two identical graphics cards. Or three, or four. It's kind of ridiculous. They've taken multiple graphics cards and strapped them together. This means you get double the power of those cards.
It's special interfaces, folks. You can't just zip tie things together and expect it to work.
You can't?
I have to say that we probably have a viewer from Florida.
Yeah, we probably do have a viewer from Florida. Now, the advantage of this is instead of buying the great big, huge card for thousands of dollars, you can buy much smaller cards fairly cheaply and then just hook them together and output the video. The disadvantage of doing this is you're limited, and this may have changed, correct me if I'm wrong, you're limited to the graphics, to the RAM on one of the cards.
I think so. I don't think it addresses the RAM on all of them.
You can't you don't double the RAM from both cards. You double the processing power, but the RAM on one of those cards just doesn't get read.
It sits there.
It just sits there because that's how the interface works together. So that's a big advantage and a big disadvantage. Primarily, he likes to play games like Fallout 4. They don't work well with SLI. Now that's another issue. This has been an issue ever since SLI started becoming a thing. Some games don't like it for some weird reason. The way
or just don't take advantage of it very well.
The way the instructions talk to the two processors at the same time, there's stutter, there's jitter, there's screen tear. It looks bad. Some games just don't do it right. So he says, I play at 1080 with 60 frames per second. This upgrade, I want to stick with single cards, so a major change in my gaming style, i.e. 4K or VR. Should I save up for the GTX 1080 or go with the 1070?
Well, given that 1070 is not out till next year,
yeah.
If you wanted to upgrade now, I'd say with 1080. The price difference is not huge if you're looking at if you were seriously considering looking at a 1080. The price difference is not huge.
Let's also say if you got money to burn, go ahead. But two 760s. I'm willing to bet. Let me do some head-to-head look real quick. I'm willing to bet that.
They said the channel saying under DX12 the RAM gets pooled now.
Okay, well, yeah, but not all games support DX12.
True.
DirectX 12. Let's see. No, you could honestly, right now, today, if you wanted to, a 980 Ti, which is on the market right now, will beat, it looks like, two 760s in SLI. And what I would do is I would wait for the 1080 to drop, and then I would look at the prices on the 980 Ti. Those are going to start slipping downward with the 1080 on the market.
Yeah.
You could probably, and the performance difference, right now, the performance difference between the 980 Ti and the Titan 10 is, unless you're doing crazy high resolution on your system, is negligible.
Well, he's not talking about the Titan 10, though. He's talking about the 10.
I know, the 1080, well, that's the comparison I have right now. The 1080 beats out the Titan 10, but not by tremendously, by 3 teraflops. And again, unless you're running 4K resolution.
3 teraflops, like 3 teraflops isn't that much.
Unless you're running like 4K resolution, unless you're running like multiple, like 20 screens all tied together. But most people, I'm one of the rare people. I have 1440p, dual 1440p monitors, and I'm kind of rare in that regard. And you know what? I run a GTX 770, and it works just fine. I get 30 to 60 frames per second on just about anything I play, and I have most of my settings maxed out. I'm looking to upgrade eventually, but I don't need all that much. I think you'd do fine with the 980 Ti. I think you would do fine with the 980 Ti, and you wouldn't.
But if you want to save up, I would say the 1080 over the 1070.
Well, I would say if you're going to sink that much money into it, 1080 Ti.
That's probably not up till next year, though, either.
Yeah, but that's kind of how these things go. And what happens is you get the 1080 and you're like, oh boy, I got the 1080. And then they say, here's the 1080 Ti. And you're like, fuck. And Nvidia always does this. This happened with the 980. This happened with the 980 Ti. This happened with the 780. 780 Ti. They always do this. How much would the Ti cost? Normally, it's an extra $150. So in this case, it's going to be $750 as opposed to $600. But again, if you're at that range and you really, 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 really want it, of course, one of the nice things that happens when the TIs come out is that the previous version drops in price a little bit. So you might want to wait for the TI to come out because it will drop the others in price.
The 980 Ti right now is looking like it's anywhere from $600 to $700.
That's going to go down. That's going to go down. Will NVIDIA release a low-end card? Oh, yeah, but it's going to take a little bit of time. They're still have the new manufacturing process they're working with. Right now, they are getting the fastest, biggest ones out the door, and then they're going to have more follow. But something NVIDIA is notorious for doing is for their low-end cards, they just reuse chips from previous generations and rebrand them. So you might end up with like a GTX 760, or in this case, I think it would be a GTX 960, rebranded as a 1050. It's still the exact same card. It's just rebranded to match the new line. So that's probably what's going to happen. NVIDIA is kind of notorious for doing that on the low end. On the high end, they big boom fireworks and shit, but on the low end, they kind of skimp and scrud. Well, a quick reminder for those of you who, if you wanted to upgrade to Windows 10, you have a limited time frame. I know not everybody wants to, but the good news is, come July, those little pop-ups at the bottom of your screen that say, you want to upgrade to Windows 10? Microsoft has announced those are going away. It will stop bugging you about it in July.
However, in July, when they stop bugging you, they'll start charging for it.
Right.
So if you're on the fence, you're going, I'm thinking about it. You've got until July when it's free. After July, you'll be paying for it.
Here's a good tip. Just to get something for free, if you have the spare time and a spare hard drive. Step 1, image your current operating system hard drive. Make a backup image of it. Step 2, upgrade to Windows 10. Step 3, write down your Windows 10 product key. Step 4, revert your changes back and revert your hard drive back. That way, you will have a valid Windows 10 license key at your disposal for the future if you decide to upgrade. without having to force yourself to upgrade.
I would do something very, very similar. I'd, make the image of the initial upgrade, make a second image of the 10, still write in the key. That way, in case they go, well, that key was only good for an upgrade. It's after July now. What are you doing? You can go, I have this image I can restore. Look, I just need to spend 3 days applying Windows patches.
Well,
either way.
However, some people don't want to upgrade, especially people who have software that won't work with Windows 10. Stephanie writes us and says, the past 2 months I've had this super annoying pop-up trying to get me to update to Windows 10. Attach a screenshot of what it looks like for reference. I'll show everybody. Now, this isn't that normal little pop-up. The entire screen. The entire screen. I did that. No, I'm so professional. I just covered up your face, Mike. I'm sorry. This isn't that little annoying pop-up from the bottom of the screen. This is something else, and I'll show everybody here. Oh no, I've got to put my inbox on screen. No! Put this over here so people can get an idea of it. There you go. You can see that there. It says, your upgrade is ready to install. Now, this isn't that nag box. This, Stephanie, I know exactly what happened. You accidentally clicked yes. That's what happened. You accidentally clicked on the yes, and the upgrade began. And when that pop-up came up, it was telling you, we're ready to begin, which means you downloaded Windows 10. There's a copy of the Windows 10 install software on your computer, and Windows 10 is ready to go, and you're not. She says, I don't want to update. I have programs I know won't work with Windows 10, and I don't feel like having to reinstall all of my shit, and you can't get it to go away. Schedule for later button doesn't make it go away. It literally just lets you schedule the update to start like up to a day later. Yeah. Okay, Stephanie, there is a solution for this. Are you ready? We're going to give you step-by-step instructions on this one. Okay. Step 1. Put aside some time. This is going to take a little bit. Step 2, turn off automatic update. You're going to have to go into Windows Update, click Start, Control Panel, go to System, Security. If you're under Windows 8, you're going to have to go into Control Panel, System, Security. Under Windows Update, choose the setting, check for updates, but let me choose whether to download or install them. Step 3, try to hide it. Go into Windows Update, it goes to show all available updates. If you see an entry for upgrade to Windows 10, right-click on it and choose Hide Update. Step 4, get the fucking installation files off your system. You want to go into File Explorer. The fast way to do this is you hit your Start button, and then search for File Explorer.
Or just hit your Windows key and hit E at the same time.
Windows E brings up File Explorer. Go into the C, right-click on the C drive, choose Disk Cleanup. Then click on the box marked Cleanup System Files. The list appears. Check the box marked Temporary Installation Files, and it's going to be large because you have it downloaded on your system, like 5+ gigs. Click OK. The message says, are you sure you want to permanently delete? Click Delete.
Go get a soda.
Yeah, this is going to take a while.
Unless you have an SSD, in which it's just going to go zip.
Step 5. Getting rid of that GWX, which is Get Windows 10 patches. Go into Control Panel, go to Add or Remove Programs. On the left click, View Installed Updates, look for, good Lord, I should write all this shit down. KB 2952664. It's on Windows 7 systems. KB 2976978. That's on Win 8.1. And on both, look for KB 3035583.
And for a good time, call Jenny at 86753.
309 86753. Oh God, it's in my head now. If you
Let's
find
do
them,
that to him.
if you find them, click on it, click on install, and then reboot. And that will get it to go away. However, the little thing at the on your dashboard will still pop up until July. After you do that, it will say, do you want Windows 10? You know you want Windows 10. You want Windows 10. Go the fuck away. So, yeah. That's that long chain of shit. We had an actual real answer. Oh my God, that is an actual solution that will solve your problem. It's amazing. How about we do one that's sort of guesswork again? Because I felt like we're being way too definitive there.
Yeah, we're out of our wheelhouse if we give real answers.
All right, let's see. Okay. This comes from Jesse. Recently cleaned malware off a computer, but then noticed Steam and other services couldn't connect to their servers. Couldn't find the reason until GeForce Experience threw up a proxy connection error. However, there's no proxy set internet options. Tried various things, rerun ingredients, malware bytes, and others, but still have the issue, and it seems to be getting worse. Tried all the tricks listed online, from fixing WinStocks to uninstalling and reinstalling network drivers to nothing. Is there a fix for it, or is it time to wipe? I'm going to say host file, Mike. What about you?
I think host file sounds about right, yeah.
Okay. Why don't you define what a host file is for everybody out there?
Let's see if I can remember this. Let's see. The host file is a file, and it's basically a text file on your computer that says, if I want to connect to this thing, and they'll generally be it by name, go to this address instead. So one of the more common uses of host files back in the day was to say, oh, here's all these ad sites. I'm going to redirect those to localhost instead, so I never see any ads. And I want to say that's how things like ad blocker and such work.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure on their details.
A host file.
Sort of thing. But the danger is you could have a legitimate thing redirected to some unknown thing out in the world.
Yeah. What happens is, you know how you go to google.com? Well, on the internet, google.com doesn't mean google.com. Google.com, when you type that in, it goes to what's called a DNS server. And it says, hey, this google.com thing, what does it mean? And the DNS server says, oh, that goes to number 116ido. And it gives it a list of numbers. It goes, okay, thanks. And your computer comes back and you go to google.com.
The host file is, instead of going to the DNS and saying, hey, what does this mean? It's a local thing that says, translate this before we even go out there.
Right. So
if it's set up to screw up a proxy setting, or it's set to say, yes, Steam is here,
even though it's not, it's got the wrong number. It's going to be perpetually. It's like your own personal phone operator who's kind of stupid. It will give you the wrong number. That's what's happening. Now, a quick way to check and see what's going on is to go to the host file and edit it. Your host file is located in normally C:/Windows/drivers/etc/. That's
now,
where you
want to open this with Notepad or something like that, but you'll need to run Notepad as administrator if you want to edit it.
Right, because it's considered a vital file for Windows. You need administrator privileges. So what you'll do is you'll go to Notepad, and instead of just clicking on Notepad to run it, you'll right-click on Notepad. A little menu will pop up, and you'll go down to where it says Run this program as administrator. Click on that. Once you open the host file, you can see if anything has been added to it. Now, if you're a normal user, there should be no addresses in that host file. It should be more or less empty. There'll be a little bit of text in there explaining what it is and what it does, but there shouldn't be any sites added to it.
It should be a relatively small, it should be like a 1K file.
Right. If it's been altered or changed by malware, which like Mike was saying, they do this to get you to go to malicious sites, they will be a ton of listings in that host file. What you want to do is just select over them and delete them. And then Control-S, save your file again, Now, when you hit Control S, make sure it doesn't try to save that file as host.txt.
Right.
Make sure it just saves it as HOSTS hosts
Now,
with no extension.
Slightly, when you open up Notepad or whatever and you say navigate to that location that Nash gave, you will probably have to type in *** in your search filter because it will go, I don't see any text files here. There's nothing for me to open.
Right. It won't allow you to open it because it's not a text file. It's just a file that's called host with no extension whatsoever.
And there's other files in there. There's LM hosts and other things. Don't worry about those guys.
Right. Just the one that's hosts, nothing else.
In fact, some of those, you say, this file's been here. It's from 2009. I didn't even have this computer in 2009. Well, that's because that's when the last time Microsoft edited that file. So don't mess with it.
Don't mess.
It probably won't actually change anything, but better safe than sorry.
But yeah, we've seen this behavior quite a bit. This is typical virus behavior. It adjusts the host file, which fucks up everything. But once you do it, boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada boo, you're done. You're ready. You're good. You're go. You're set. You're all good.
Yeah, and that location, by the way, looks like it's the same in Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 10.
Yeah.
Now, if you're using a Mac, there's their own version of that, but I don't know where exactly it is.
Because we don't use Macs.
Yeah.
It exists,
but
we know it
exists. It's the same sort of deal.
Yeah. All right, let's see. We have time for probably one more question here. Let's see. Oh, okay, we get to do one of the fantasy football types. Nash, Grady, and Mike. Why are you addressing it to my cat? He can't read.
Ow.
Comes from Gumsy. I'm looking to get into video production. I was wondering how I should go about getting the software and hardware I need to start out. Used editing software in the past, but I have no idea which one to get. My overall question, which editing software should I use, and what I need to get new hardware? Money is no object.
That is dangerous. Money is no object.
Well, okay. If you are serious about video production, let's go the hardware side first. The first side of things is you want one of the multi-core Intel E enthusiast processors. If money is truly no object, go with an Intel 5960X. That is a $1,100 processor. Not processor and motherboard and RAM, not processor and motherboard, just a processor. One CPU, $1,100. And why do I recommend it? It's the first desktop 8-core processor put out by Intel. It can do multiple threads, which is vital for stuff like video rendering and whatnot. It makes that shit go lightning fast. I have a 6-core processor because I wasn't really to drop 1,100 on the bigger one for the upgrade. There was no real point for me. 6 is fine. But if your money is really no object, go with the 8-core. It will serve you very well. That's the 5960X is the current one. I would do that, and I would also get an Nvidia graphics card. Now, why? And you don't need to get, now in this case, you don't need to get the biggest one. Nvidia 960 would do you just fine. Why do I recommend this? Because you also ask about software. Now, there are a lot of, if you're serious about video editing, there's a lot of really good software out there. We can rule out Final Cut because we're not using a Mac. Goodbye. That leaves you with 2 big names in video editing software. That would be Avid and Adobe. And of the two, and this is saying a lot, Adobe Premiere is the more user-friendly option. as opposed to Avid. Now, Avid is an industry standard. It has much larger market share than Adobe does among the industry. Even though some big publishing houses do use Adobe, the BBC makes use of Adobe Premiere and After Effects on quite a few things. However, Avid, while it's powerful, thorough, and does amazing work, learning to use it is like trying to drive a truck inside of a cow inside of a slightly larger truck.
Okay.
It
sounds difficult.
It is. Orca says, what about Sony Vegas? No.
And of course, we're not even going to really talk about Windows Video Editor. Windows Video Editor is just fine if you're throwing together a 5-second thing.
If you want to get started in video and maybe do something more serious with it later, you want an industry standard. That would be Avid, Final Cut, or Adobe Premiere. Final Cut don't run on PC, and Mac has been kind of Mac. Well, it's
you're paying a 30% premium for the Macintosh label,
and it's not nearly as powerful.
Label. Yeah.
There is no 5960X in a Macintosh. It's not nearly as powerful as a PC in this instance.
I do agree with your friend on the widescreen monitor. Get as big a monitor as you can reasonably put in the space you're working in.
I use two 27-inch monitors. It is, in fact, dual monitors will make your life so much easier when it comes to editing video, because you can keep your timeline and your small preview on one and a large preview on the other one, plus other things. It's so helpful to have the more space you have to work with video, the better. It's so nice. So nice. But now, why did I recommend NVIDIA? If we're going to go with Adobe Premiere, which is cheaper than Avid, Avid is ridiculously expensive. I think it's like $1,500 for the edit. I might be wrong on those numbers, but the last time I checked, it was a ridiculous price for Avid. Avid is not cheap. Adobe Premiere, while you do have that fucking annoying subscription, is cheaper than Avid. Why I recommended an NVIDIA graphics card to go with this, even a little one like a 960, is Adobe Premiere has a nice feature called the Mercury Playback Engine, which uses the graphics card, the CUDA cores on an NVIDIA card, to speed up timeline rendering, which means you can watch as you're editing, you can watch your timeline in real time. It looks much nicer. It's very helpful to be able to just scrub back and forth like you're watching something on Netflix with the same ease without any hiccups or stutters. So that's really useful. And the other side of it is it also assists with rendering. It can help render certain 3D graphics, and it can also render just regular stuff too. So it increases the speed of your render time and makes everything go that much faster. That is what I would recommend. You're looking at easily $2,500, if not more, what I've just recommended to you. That's about $500. No, actually, I say $3,000. It's $500 for the graphics card. Another $1,000 for the motherboard, the RAM, and you get a lot of RAM. Get at least 32 gigabytes of RAM. 64 may be pushing it, but 32 is, you're going to need 32 gigabytes of RAM. Motherboard, RAM, power supply, hard drives, maybe an optical. I don't know why you'd need one, but
some people like them still.
Multiple hard drives. You're going to need a lot of hard drive space. Get as many hard drives as you can reasonably get, or get some externals. Plan on getting external hard drives. Oh, the joys of have hard drive space when you're editing video. That $1,000 would cover all that, and then the software, and then just $1,000 for that processor alone. Put that all together, you're in the $2,500 to $3,000 to $2,500 to $3,000 mark. Oh, and of course your Adobe Premiere subscription will go in there as well. Yeah. So you're looking at about $3,000 to build. That's the price is no object. You asked. That's because You asked. Price is no fucking object. There you go.
Now, given the specs of the system you say you currently have, your two 24-inch monitors are probably good enough to support you for now.
Oh yeah, and the 32-inch TV. If I had having he has a 32-inch TV connected, that'd be fine. I wouldn't say that would be your best playback monitor to test footage on, but it's better than the 24-inch monitors.
Yeah. And it'll also give you it'll give you a different sound playback, which is also useful.
Yeah.
Because sound playback through headphones or speakers, you'll notice a difference than what you say you get out of TV. And it's useful sometimes to have those differences. So you go, well, it sounded fine on these speakers or these headphones I had.
Oh, sound is annoying as fuck to track down bugs on that one.
And by the way, that's something I don't think Nash mentioned is a decent set of headphones for your sound. I would say, in a second. I would say Audio-Technica.
They're not bad.
They're a brand I've used, as you saw. I just checked for years. They're great. There's plenty there. The one we always say to avoid, Nash, Beats.
They found out. They took them apart and found out. I'm not lying. You can Google this shit. We're not lying. They took apart Beats headphones and found out there were lead weights inside of them to make them feel heavier. Because with the public, heavier means better quality.
Was that the legitimate takedown, or because there was a fake takedown video too?
There's a legitimate one too.
Okay, because there was, let's Beats has a lot of mind share out there.
Beats is the monster cables of headphones.
It is, and so there are people who wanted to take them down, and so they faked a video of we're disassembling this, and it was crap, and it got torn apart pretty quickly by people, but it still pops up here.
There are weights in there though.
I'm saying, but there was a fake video, and then there's a real video.
Well, it's not the fake. I'm not talking about the fake one.
God damn it, Mike. So anyway, I think that's gonna wrap it up for us tonight. Yeah. If you have questions for us, send those to requests@radio.air.com. Put Tech Q&A in the subject line. Mike and I will attempt to poke apart your question and make our best guesses on the air and potentially be completely wrong. I know there was one we were completely right about tonight, which makes me happy. Yes. We definitively solved one problem.
And probably two because the hosts file thing.
Maybe. Hopefully that host file thing will help for Jesse, but yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back here next time. Good night.